Welcome to the Tipsy Guest Podcast. I am your host, Marco Buenrostro, and every week I'm here with the top industry experts, amazing clients, and all my vendor BFFs to bring you the best tips, advice, and juicy behind-the-scenes stories to make wedding and event planning a breeze. So grab your favorite drink and let's get this party started! Hi guys, welcome back to the Tipsy Guest. I am Marco, your host, and today we're going to be talking floral designs. Oh my god, this is one of my favorite parts of the wedding because the moment you walk in and you look at the designs, it is so magical. And for that, I have Megan Riley from Riley and Rose Floral Design. Hello.
Hello.
How are you?
I am so good. Thank you for having me.
Of course. I am so happy that you're here. I feel like the stuff you create is so incredible. So beautiful. I've known you for a long time now. I mean, I don't even remember how long I don't even remember. I think the first time that I worked with you was at an open house at the Allen Farmhouse.
Yes.
And that was probably like 6-7 years ago, maybe?
Has to be.
I think.
It's crazy.
And fun fact, so I did a TV segment years and years ago, right after one of those open houses at the Allen Farmhouse. And I needed an emergency backdrop. I mean, I was going to be on TV. I needed something amazing. And she happened to have some amazing floral designs at this open house. And she was so kind that she was like, use them, go, take them to the TV set and just do whatever you want with it. So thank you for that.
You're so welcome. Literally, every time I think of you, that's one of the things I think of is like, that was right when like, I think both of us were just really starting to full speed ahead with our businesses.
Yeah.
And I still remember that segment. And I'm like, every time I see Great ASA, that's what I think of. I'm like,
that's so funny.
I love it.
I like that. I like those little stories with my guests, It's so cool that, I mean, we've seen each other grow so much. Yes. I mean, we were just chatting off the air about, how wedding season is so crazy and so wild and so busy.
I know.
How many weddings do you do a weekend normally?
Yeah. So again, kind of with the seasons, things really change. So for us here in Texas and things like that, busy season for us is spring and fall. That's our like bread and butter wedding season. So during the fall, most of the time we're doing anywhere between 3 to 6 is kind of our comfort spot. Now for us, some of those could be smaller weddings, not necessarily full service. With weddings with flowers, there's a lot of components into it. So are we doing huge installations of, chandeliers and backdrops and arches? When we're doing those things, it takes a lot of manpower, lots of moving pieces and parts. And so if we have a really big wedding like that, we normally will scale things down a little bit, where we're only doing 2 or 3. But if we have smaller ones, easier ones to kind of drop off, deliver, we can do 6, 8, really. The limit is endless on some of those. Right.
With me, and, with the photo booth business, that's what I say.
Yeah.
I'm going to book the wedding, I'm going to book the event, and then we'll figure it out later.
Yeah.
I mean, I can do up to 20 events a weekend. I don't think I've ever done 20 events in a weekend, of course. But for example, December for us is so busy because we have weddings and then we also have the corporate events. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, holiday parties are insane because those are not just on the weekend. Those are like every day of the week in December.
Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday.
Yeah. So I totally get it when it's a bigger party, a bigger event. I do try to I try not to get crazy and say yes to every single event because, we want to make sure that we deliver great service for each individual event. So, especially with flowers, I mean, you have to handle them with care and the setup. How long does it normally take you to set up at a wedding? Let's say a mid-size wedding, not something crazy big.
Mm-hmm. Minimum really 2 hours.
Okay.
It's kind of what we like to give ourselves. Now, again, depending on the venue, what our timeline is, things can be really crazy. Sometimes we have huge weddings that we have, 2 hours to have literally every single thing done. Sometimes we have all day at a venue. It really just depends where we're at. But, and how many people I have on my team also plays a big factor in that. If our timeline is really tight, we bring in a lot more of our staff to come in because if I'm trying to do a ceremony and set candles and set this, we have to have, 10, 12 hands doing that. So that really plays a big factor in, how much time and how many people are there.
I like that. Yeah, I always see you with your group of people, and then so we always set up the photo booth early in the day. So I always see her when she's setting up, when she's arriving with her staff, and it's such a cool transition. When we set up earlier in the day, and you're starting to see like little pieces, and then at night it just looks like a whole different set. Like it's so incredible.
Yes.
I just think the way flowers go with the lighting in the venue and the linens and everything is just so pretty to see it go from like earlier in the day to the actual wedding. It's so pretty.
Yeah, even candles, when we leave, most of the time the candles aren't lit. So even sometimes we don't get that full feeling until we come back at the end of the night to tear down a wedding, and I'm like, oh wow, we killed this. Like,
yeah.
Once you really see it, like the mood is set, the candles are lit, and you're like, okay, yes. It's so funny, like when I bring in new girls who work for us, or I even had some friends in town this weekend who like tagged along with me, and just seeing the process of it. Most people have no idea how we get from like square one to the end finished result. They're just like, oh my God, I didn't realize the production.
Yeah, I know. And lately I've been seeing a trend on TikTok where people just film the reaction of guests as they walk into the venue or like the space, and it's so cool to see it. I mean, the couple spend so much money and they put so much into planning their big day. So when they see reactions of people, like it's so cool.
Oh, it's my favorite. And it's something with me when I'm talking to my brides, if I'm giving a recommendation or kind of trying to figure out certain things, I am always going to go from the guest, experience perspective. I always tell people, when I'm standing at a cocktail table at a wedding that I'm attending, I don't want this huge floral arrangement. I want to be able to put my purse down.
Yeah.
I want to get a drink. I want to do these things. So I'm kind of more of like the realist guest experience. And so, when I'm working with clients, if they want this big wow factor spot, I want that. And I want your guest to have that moment. I want your guests for the next 10, 15, 40 years talking about that
to remember
piece.
Yeah.
And if you're gonna spend the money, let's make a bang. That's kind of how I approach things, and I love it. It is, while it's a celebration of your marriage, you're inviting all these people to a party, and you want them to enjoy themselves, and we want them to have that experience. And for me, that's something I love, is seeing the guests' eyes just light up, and I've never seen this before. That to me is like, yes, that's what we wanted. I don't want it to be the same wedding you've walked into 100 different times.
Exactly. And I think that's one of the things that sets you apart, like what you just said right now. You put it in, you think of the guest experience. It's, of course, the couple, they're going to make the decision, but I'm sure that when you explain it to them that way, they're just like, oh my God, yes. Like they will love this and they will love that. And, of course they want people to talk about it and to take photos of it and remember that. So I guess, so now that you're talking about that, can you walk me through the process of when you book a client, from the moment they reach out to you to the moment that you go pick up everything at the end of the night? How is that process?
Yeah, really long process, actually. I think a lot of people don't really understand how much goes into the floral aspect. Most of our clients, we are working with full service planners, things like that, but we do still work with just individual brides and grooms. Most of the time they inquire with us. First thing is checking their date, checking their venue. Can we fit that wedding in? Like I told you, I like to take as many as we can within means. So a lot of that is just kind of checking with our staff and making sure, like, okay, do we have enough manpower to add this one on? Do we have enough vehicles? Do we have enough inventory to make this happen? So that's always kind of my first big step. But then we bring them in, and I like to hop on a call and really just hear their ideas. A lot of it is just them telling me what they envision. Before I like to get crazy with my mind and my ideas, I want to hear what's important. So a lot of times my questionnaire and on that call, I ask somewhat kind of silly questions, but I want to know how they met. I want to know what they like to do. I want to know what's important to them. When they look at a wedding, what are your top 3, 5 most important things of your day? Is it a really cool band? Are you a foodie? Do you love food? Do you want that to be an experience? Is it what the room looks like? Because to me, that can kind of help me guide my clients in how I need to present things to them. You know, if I have a bride who flowers might not be the most important thing to them, but they still need flowers and they still want it to look nice. There's a lot of things that I might not present because it necessarily doesn't need to be in their budget of florals. So I kind of just vet that process through, go kind of figure out what they need, what they want, and then I put together a huge design board. So I'm a visual person. Most of my clients are. So they want to see it. They want to almost, if they could reach out and touch it.
Yeah.
They want to do that. So we have this big, electronic PDF of here is what your bouquets look like. Here's all the flowers we're using, color palettes. I even come in and Photoshop, like, here's your backdrop. Here's what I want it to look like. So they have the most realistic vision of what we're going to present to them. And to me, that's a huge part of our kind of client onboarding process is once they're able to see that, most of my clients are like, oh my God, yes, you took my ideas that I had no clue what I wanted and made it something. And
I love that.
That's the most fun for me, I think, is bringing that all together. And that's really just the beginning. After that, it's sourcing the flowers, ordering the flowers. And again, that's pretty easy. The work really starts, Monday, week of the wedding. We get flowers in that week, and it is conditioning and processing and prepping and pulling vases and containers and candles and everything we need for that wedding. We normally start that process, in the summer when we're slow. We kind of look at our weddings for the fall and we'll say, here's our counts. Here's what we need for this wedding and this wedding and this wedding. And we have it typed out and written out. So we just grab that paper the week of the wedding and we're like, okay, we need 120 of this size and we need 150 of this size, and pulling all of those things and making sure everything's there, it's cleaned, it's prepped, it's ready, and then packing it and getting ready. Then we actually get to start designing. Designing, honestly, is probably the least amount of work I do in a whole full service wedding. We design Wednesday, Thursday, Fridays, and we're done. And then we set up on Saturdays.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So if you think about it, like, there's so much work that goes into it that doesn't even involve touching the flowers.
That is so crazy. And where do the flowers come from? I mean, I know you have to order flowers, and I guess also one of my questions was the seasons. Like I guess each season is a different type of flower. So how do you discuss that with the client? And what if they want a specific flower that it's not in season? Like, how do you handle situations like that?
Yeah. We have this come up all the time. The great thing about where we're at right now, just in the world in general, we order flowers all over the world. I mean, Ecuador, Holland, Belgium, California, Florida. We even source from our local growers here in Texas.
Wow.
Unfortunately for Texas, we don't have perfect weather for growing flowers, but there's some that we can. And I love to buy locally as much as I can, just because it gives us, one, best quality, best price. When we are ordering from, say, Holland and Belgium, that's their bread and butter. Those flowers are going to be great. But by the time they are cut, put in a box, shipped over here on an airplane, they've been out of water, out of the ground for sometimes a week before they actually get to me. So then we have to rehydrate, reprocess. Whereas if I go down to, Winkleman Farms or any of the Mead Florals, I can literally pick the flowers out of the ground myself.
Oh my God. I bet that's like a really cool experience.
Yeah. It's so fun. And you're getting the best quality, and you're not having to pay for the shipping and the jet fuel and all those things. So, unfortunately for us here in Texas, it's very seasonal.
Yeah.
So summer, zinnias, dahlias, some of those that we love and we see, really more of like a summer into fall. But then once we hit our first freezes, they're gone.
Oh.
Yeah.
Have you ever had a client that goes with you? Like, for example, if you're buying local, like to pick the actual flowers?
So when I very first started, I did. I've kind of gotten away from that just because I find for clients that can be very overwhelming. And so that's kind of where that design board comes in. If I show them the actual pictures of the flowers, that's when they can say, like, I love this. I don't love that. And then it kind of lets me, get to pick and choose for them as the professional, because someone might show me a flower that I'm like, I know that's not in season, but I can get another variety that is almost identical. The client would never know the difference. And so instead of freaking them out and being like, well, that's not in season, I can't get it, or it's going to be way too expensive, I can just be like, okay, great, we'll do that. I show them a picture of the other one and they would never know the difference.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay. So, yeah. And right now that you mentioned, when you buy flowers from overseas, that, that they've been transported over here without water. And how do you make sure that the flowers look fresh the day of the wedding? And even like from the earlier in the day when you set up to all night, with the candles and the lighting and all that stuff, how do you make sure that they all look fresh?
Yeah, honestly, one of the most stressful parts of our jobs, because it's Mother Nature. It is a perishable product.
Yeah.
So a lot of times, especially in the summer, is when we stress the most with 110 degree temperatures in Texas. It is hard on flowers, especially outside. If we're inside in the air conditioner, normally we don't have too much of a problem. But outside, those flowers, they are strained. Biggest thing is making sure our buckets, our processes, we are cleaning, disinfecting, making sure bacteria is gone. We don't want any of that because that's going to decrease the longevity of the flowers. Making sure we're hydrating, we're cutting. We use different solutions that will help the flowers drink more, drink less. Some flowers we put outside to make them open more. Some we put them immediately into coolers. I have a huge walk-in cooler, as well as our trailer that we transport to weddings is a cooler. That for us has been the biggest thing as far as stress. When we put those flowers in the trailer cooler and we're driving an hour to a venue, I am not stressing over like, oh my God, do they have enough water?
Yeah.
Are they getting too hot? No, they're sitting at, 42 degrees, living their best life in that trailer. And then when we get to a venue, they're going right inside to the air conditioning. And so for us, that's a huge, huge piece. And that's also something we kind of pride ourselves in, is a lot of florists don't have that. We do. And that's something that I kind of built and made. And I love it because it eases me, it eases my clients, and I know that when we drop our product on a table, it's going to last all through the night. When I'm picking up the flowers at the end of the night and I'm giving them to family, I know that I can say, these are going to last 2, 3, 5 more days because they are at their top quality.
I love that. Mm-hmm. Do you ever go and chill in your trailer, like during the summer when it's so hot when you're setting up? Do you ever just go sit in there and chill for a second?
Yes, it's so funny. Our team, we always kind of joke when we're like, "Where is so and so?" And they're like, "Oh, they went to the trailer," and I'm like, "Someone is literally cooling off."
Oh my gosh!
Yeah, but sometimes that's literally like, I know myself, like when I need a moment, if something has gone stressful, something's gone wrong, if I just need to like think. You can find me in that trailer.
That is so funny.
It's dark. I can like think and I can get away. And I'm one of those, I don't like to sweat.
Oh, me neither.
I don't ever like to sweat. Mm-mm. So when I am in there, I'm cool. I can like take a breath and I can think. And then I hop out and I'm like, okay, here's the solution.
That is so funny, but I love it. Because I hate sweating. Like, it doesn't matter. Like my house is always cold. My car is always cold. Like it's always, always, always cold. Like sometimes, like today, I'm wearing a hoodie.
Yeah.
And it's because it's cold inside the house. It's not cold outside yet, but it's cold inside the house. So yeah. I just like to feel comfortable, and I love to be cold because then I can just grab a blanket or a sweater or a hoodie or a jacket, whatever. It is so good.
Yes. And I always say, like, in our studio, we keep it very cold because even when we're designing, we don't want it like in the winter when it's 30 outside, we don't want heat blowing on these flowers.
Yeah.
So even for me, I am in leggings and hoodies and jackets. And when we're in the studio, there's no turning a heater on. It's like, put more clothes on because that's the flowers are happy. We don't care about us. And
it's all about the flowers.
Yeah. And so I think it works well for me because I love being cold. So this is the perfect job for me. It's like
I love it.
Walking into a meat market. It's the same
right?
thing. Yeah.
So what would you say are your top 3 most requested flowers?
Ooh. In terms of like types of designs or actual flowers?
I would say type of flower, yes.
Everyone loves a peony. I feel like that is just, prime. A lot of people get deterred away because they think they're expensive. And they can be. When they're not in season, very expensive. But like a coral charm or different things, they're so big and lush and pretty that I don't have to use 10 in a centerpiece. I can use one and it make a huge difference.
Love it.
Honestly, I'm finding a huge shift into some of those local grown flowers like the zinnias and the dahlias. This is my like shout out to Carrington with the Farmer and I and Winkleman Flowers. They grow the best dahlias and the best zinnias ever. I grow them in my own backyard and I will still buy from them because theirs are the best. They have a lot of texture, a big petal count. They come in a lot of colors. And so I think when girls see that, that's what they're drawn to. So I'm finding dahlias and zinnias have been one of the most requested in probably the past 2 years.
Wow.
Also with the shift of color, we've seen so much more color in the last 2 years. And so I think with that, you get those more colorful florals. And then a rose, whether it's standard or garden, Riley and Rose is my business name. And I always joke, when I do a wedding without roses, I feel weird. It's kind of a staple for me.
Yeah.
And again, I think people get deterred by like, the really tight, like funeral flower or like the red rose Valentine's Day arrangement. And that's not what we're doing. We're big, beautiful, open, full bloomed roses that most people are like, what is that? And I'm like, oh, it's a rose. And they're like,
what?
It's so big. It's so fluffy. It's, Blaze this weekend was looking at one of them and was like, it has 0 imperfections. I've never seen a flower that's just like so perfect. And I
bet you that makes you so happy.
Yes. I'm like, oh my gosh, I love it. Especially when, flowers come in and they might not be the exact tone that they normally are. That's something with flowers that's crazy. We can order the same flower every single week. And after, week 5, it'll be a complete different shade. It's the same variety, same style, everything, same farm. And it's just different shade.
Wow.
Yeah. And so sometimes I will like stress out. I like get the best of me. I'm like, oh my gosh, this bride is expecting this to be 2 shades lighter. And I'm like, she's never going to know the difference. She will never know.
But you will know.
But I know.
Yeah.
And so I stress out over it. And so then when you hear something like that, I'm like, okay, it's great. Like, it's fine.
That is so funny.
Yeah.
But that's nature.
It is. It is.
Speaking of nature, so are there any eco-friendly options for couples that want to reduce their environmental impact? I mean, nowadays, everybody's trying to be very, thoughtful of things like this. Are there any options out there?
Yeah. Tons of options, actually. And we're seeing this really big movement in the floral industry, which I love. I love that we're kind of taking it seriously and, trying to help our clients do that. So one of the biggest things is trying to reduce floral foam. So when you look at centerpieces, most of the time we're going to have a piece of floral foam in there. Those things don't disintegrate. When they go to landfills, when they do things, years and years and years. Even the fibers that are in them, they're not even great to breathe. There's research that showed like having them in the studio it's not good for you to be around it. And so a lot of times we're trying to move to, containers, vessels that we can fill with water versus having to have that floral foam. We'll use chicken wire and said, the floral foam is great to insert stems and keep them there. It keeps the arrangement perfect. Well, if we use chicken wire with water, the chicken wire holds those stems. So it kind of does what the floral foam does without, having to throw it away at the end of the night. And then that chicken wire, we can reuse. Floral foam, it's a one-time use.
Yeah. Okay.
And now there are some things we just can't. When we're attaching flowers on, structures and arches, sometimes we have to. But for our team, we've really tried to say like, okay, do we need to use foam on this or do we not? And that's a really big thing for us is trying to just decrease that use of it. There are some companies that are making, like moss pillows. So it's made of biodegradable plastic with moss inside that you soak. So again, instead of that foam, you're using those to really just try to, decrease the amount of one-time use in plastics and things like that. And for us, we try to compost as much as we can. We have so much trash so much.
Oh, yeah, I bet.
The boxes that our flowers come through, we recycle them every single week. Luckily, I partner with a local elementary school. They have a recycling dumpster that gives money back to the school when people recycle paper, cardboard. So we take all of our boxes, we break them down, and they go to that school and get recycled. And so for us, that's great because we're not putting in a dumpster to trash. We're at least recycling. And then, same things, we try to reuse. If we get boxes that have, bouquet holders, we will reuse from wedding to wedding and try to only use once if we can. Like we want to break down the one-time use of things. If I can use a box 15 times versus once, we're going to do it.
I like that. Well,
Yeah.
there you have it, guys. This is Megan Riley from Riley and Rose Floral Design. I love everything that you do. So for our listeners, if they want to check out your all your work, they can definitely see you all over social media. And are you on Instagram, TikTok?
Yes, we're on everything you can be on at this point. Instagram, just Riley and Rose. Facebook, Riley and Rose. TikTok, Riley and Rose. Threads, we're getting into that. We're working it. Check us out. Our website is just www.rileyandrose.com. I always tell people, if you're interested in learning more about us, tons of information on the website. You can order holiday flowers. You can do things like that on our website. You can also inquire on our website. So check that out.
Perfect. So we'll have all of her information in the show notes. Make sure you check it out. And again, thank you so much for being with us today. We are running out of time now, but I'll see you at events. I mean, I feel like I see you at least like once or twice a month.
I know. We're probably going to be together this weekend and we'll see each other and be like, oh my gosh, I didn't even know you were going to be here.
Very true. All right, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. We'll catch you next week. Cheers.
Cheers. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for listening to the Tipsy Guest Podcast. If you know someone who could benefit from these tips, spread the love and share it with them. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a review. Next round's on us. Same time, same place. Cheers! This podcast is brought to you by MVP Photo Booth, the #1 photo booth rental company in San Antonio, Austin, and Central Texas.